Big news in the autism community, Mattel just released an Autistic Barbie. Here she is. And it has a lot of online chatter right now, so I thought that I would make a video talking about it from my perspective. If you don't know me, hi, my name's Morgan, I'm autistic, and I talk about it online. So I actually got the Barbie sent to me by Mattel when it was released as like a PR package, so I do have her. I found out that Mattel was in the process of making an Autistic Barbie about a month ago when they reached out saying like, hey, we want to send it to you. And when I first got that email, I was like, ooh, they're making an Autistic Barbie. Like, that made me nervous because autism is an invisible disability and it affects every autistic person differently. And I was like, how are they going to make that into a doll? Like, I didn't think it was going to go well, but I'm actually really pleasantly surprised. I do have things that I don't particularly like about it, which will be later on in the video, but right now I want to talk about the things that I think they did right. First of all, they worked with the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network to make this doll, and so they had autistic people giving input about this. Like, they took time to ask autistic people and work with autistic people on this doll, which I appreciate. All right, so now let's get into the doll herself, and I'll put her up here on the screen so that you can see what I'm talking about. Now, obviously, she doesn't represent every autistic person because every autistic person is different. However, this is very good representation of one autistic person. The first thing that I noticed about her was the AAC device, and I was very happy that that was included. AAC devices are communication devices that a lot of medium or high support needs autistic people use to communicate, and this is something that often doesn't get the spotlight in autism representation. You don't see a lot of autistic content creators online that use AAC devices. You don't see it in movies or media very often, so I think it's very important to include that because that includes the entire community. And just because other people don't use an AAC device doesn't mean that they're not represented in the doll. They can just remove it from the doll. The next thing that I like is her headphones. A lot of autistic people have sound sensitivities, and again, they are a removable part of the doll. So if there's an autistic person that doesn't have sound sensitivity, they can remove the headphones, but it does signify a very big struggle that a lot of autistic people have. And then moving down to her clothing, she's wearing a cute, casual, cozy dress. And I have not opened my box yet, but I have been told that the fabric of the clothing is different than the fabric that they usually use, and it's to be more accommodating to autistic people that might have sensory issues with clothing, like it's a softer material. So I think that that was really considerate of them as well. And then the next thing is the fidget toy and the adjustable arms. The wrists and the shoulders move, which I know Mattel said that they did that so that they could signify like stimming, like you could make the doll stim the way that you stim. Oh, and then the eyes. This is my favorite part about the doll. So the eyes don't look straight. They look slightly to the side to signify autistic people struggle with eye contact. A lot of us don't like making eye contact, and so they made a new like eye specifically like for this autistic doll, which I thought was a really cool detail to add. And then the last detail that I'm aware of, there might be more, but these are just the ones that like I've noticed or heard that Mattel said that they did, is that the doll has flat feet. It's not the standard like heeled like toes, they're flat feet on the doll. And a lot of autistic people have like coordination issues, and so they included that. Although I did see a lot of people online say, no, they should have had the high feet because autistic people tend to walk on their tippy toes. And I was like, oh yeah, that is a good point because I am a tippy toe walker. But I think the inclusion of like, oh, some autistic people struggle with this thing, like kind of highlighting that is really great. And then the last thing that I want to say about like the visuals of the doll and all of the things that they included is that I really like that they made her a woman of color. I think Mattel came out and said that she is an Indian woman and she's actually based off of a real autistic Indian woman, which is super awesome. And I say this and I think it's really important because autistic women of color are the least visual in autism spaces. They are not seen very often. Between the struggles of racism and sexism, they're the least likely to get diagnosed and get the correct support and stuff like that. So it's really highlighting and showcasing the most marginalized in our community and saying, hey, this is what autism also looks like. Because most of autism content between characters and on social media, like it's very predominantly white. And so it's very important to say, hey, autism affects everybody. This is what autism looks like, and showing a woman of color. So as far as Autistic Barbie goes, I think that Mattel did a pretty good job given the fact that autism affects every autistic person differently. It's an invisible disability. It's very hard to make a doll portray characteristics of autism when autism is something that you portray, not something that like is physically on your body. I think is a very difficult thing to tackle, and they did pretty good. And you can tell that they put effort into it, which I appreciate. Like if you were going to do this, you should put effort in, and I think they put effort in, which I appreciate. I like it. I think as far as I'm concerned, it's good representation. I like the doll. Now, do we need an autistic Barbie? I feel like that's been the question on social media. Like, is this whole thing like worth it? Like, did we need this? What's the point of this? Like, it's just capitalism capitalizing off autistic people. Like, why is this needed? And my perspective on this is kind of somewhere in the middle. I think multiple truths can be true at the same time and kind of holding space for all of it. Do I think that this was a money grab for Mattel and they saw that autism was becoming trendy or whatever in the media? And yeah, obviously. They were like, okay, what can make us money? What disability should we choose that would make us money? Autism? Okay, boom, let's go. Obviously, like they are wanting to sell dolls. That's their main goal. They're not here advocating for different disabilities. They're selling dolls. But at the same time, if they are going to do that, if they're going to capitalize off of autistic people, I think the least that they can do is provide good representation and talk to autistic people and make a doll that is helpful for the community, that shows good representation. And I think they did that. That's kind of what I think on it. I think that they took the time to highlight some of the most marginalized people in our community, women of color and high support needs autistic people, and represented that in a doll to show the world that, hey, this is what autism looks like. We can normalize this. Let's learn about autism. I've had so many people in my comment sections like learning what an AAC device was. Like, I think this doll is putting new information about autism into the world in a positive way, and I like that. I think that there's a lot of positivity within that. But did we absolutely need an autistic Barbie? I don't know. I don't totally care one way or the other. I'm glad that the autistic Barbie that we have is nice representation. Representation does matter, and I think the doll will make a lot of autistic children very happy. I think it's also going to make a lot of autistic adults very happy to see themselves reflected in their favorite childhood toy. But then again, I don't think it was like totally necessary that we needed an autistic Barbie, because there's so many different ways to provide representation. I am really glad though that the autistic Barbie that we have is a good representation of autism and the community. And then the other criticism that I've been hearing online, specifically from like lower support needs autistic people like myself, is that this is bad representation, that she is just a stereotype, and that the public now is going to think that every autistic person uses an AAC device and has high support needs and needs all these things. And my response to that is, this is the only time you cared about representation. Like, you see low support needs autistic people all over social media. You say low support needs autistic people in movies and TV shows, and you didn't say anything then. You didn't say, oh, this is bad representation because everybody's going to think that autism is low support needs and that you don't need any help and that you can, do all these things. You didn't say it then, but you say it now. You liked it and you didn't care when it reflected you, but the minute that it reflects the other side of the autism community that probably has equal numbers, now you have an issue with it. This is good representation. AAC devices, higher support needs autistic people, are not often seen in social media, in movies and TV shows. They're not often painted in a good light. I think it's very important to have Barbie, a fashionable, well-respected gal, like the top doll, representative of a higher support needs autistic person. I think that shows the world that they are just like everybody else, and that you should maybe learn that they use an AAC device to communicate, and that communication is just as equal to like talking communication, and that it's just different, and take an extra step to learn about it. Like, I think that this is really positive representation, and representation that was needed. Like, this was something that should get the spotlight. So to summarize, I think that Autistic Barbie is a really good start. It's progress and it's positive. My hope with this doll is that it normalizes women, people of color, higher support needs, autistic people within society, and that the more it is normalized, the more can change for the better. One doll doesn't fix the struggles and challenges that autistic people face and the different levels of oppression different autistic people have. But I think it's a start that could be beneficial. I hope that it normalizes things so that people in turn understand the struggle and help advocate for those autistic people. That's what I hope to happen, and I think a doll that represents some of the most marginalized people within the autism community is a start to that. Now, I would have liked Mattel to talk about these things, share resources, put some money into advocacy for autistic people, but obviously under capitalism, this was a money grab. Like, I'm pretty sure we're all aware of that, that they're capitalizing off of autism. But at least I hope that the chain reaction of this doll is better understanding from society. And representation does matter. It matters a lot, especially to little kids, and I'm pretty sure that's the target audience for this. I mean, so many little kids are probably going to see themselves in this doll and feel some sense of happiness or belonging or comfort because they see a doll that reflects them. I was an autistic little kid once, and I know what it's like to feel different and not have anyone to look up to and feel very isolated. It would have meant a lot to me to see myself reflected in a doll. It can also help normalize autism in the eyes of other little kids. They can say, oh, that girl has an AAC device just like that Barbie. I know what that is. I know how she communicates. I can go talk to her and befriend her, and I understand that that's how she communicates. Like, I think it can really help with autism awareness in that sense. So yeah, I guess those are my thoughts on Autistic Barbie. Let me know what your thoughts are about Autistic Barbie in the comment section below.